that there are too few people to do so much work. Besides illness, we're having some printers' difficulties and decided to delay publication until May. Sincerely as ever, Claudia Jones.
And so there are articles that she wrote, and, she lived off the advertising. She supported herself. And it wasn't easy for a woman who was approaching middle age, alone, black, in a very racist society, I might say.
She was a very warm person. There are lots of people around Claudia, and of course you could do a lot of name-dropping with people like Paul Robeson. I said in Journey to an Illusion that people treated Claudia and the West Indian Gazette as a godmother, the sort of person in the Caribbean that you go and really pour your troubles to. And it's not that she probably had an answer for you, but talking about it was therapy enough.
She had a very rough time to be separated from her family, to be on her own in her 40s in Britain, and problems, there were very few men who would be prepared. While they were very attracted to Claudia, very few of them could measure up to her, because she was outstanding, and I suppose she frightened them. There was this man in her life when she came to Britain, Manchanda. They'd been living together off and on. Of course, there was a lot of rowing that went on there. But he was in China at this time because he tended to, one shouldn't speak badly, because he's dead too now, but I was not very fond of him. I felt he exploited Claudia, lived off her. And in fact, the trip to China, which he was involved in at the time of her death, he only got through her.
Manchanda was a very nice person when you get to know him. I think Manchanda was more of a radical communist than Claudia. I think it was much easier for Claudia to get on with a lot of other people who didn't have her political background.
My dear Manu, today, my second day in Moscow, and I'm beginning to really believe that I am here after all. Now, how are things with you? I'm afraid I left things somewhat in a mess, and there's the usual financial problems. Shanghai is a great Chinese city with a great history. Why no letters? No paper? Hope you're okay. Love, Claudia. Please write. Dearest Manu, yesterday I laid a rose for you and me at the Hiroshima Memorial.
We too stand to prevent any more Hiroshimas and Nagasaki's. But the best way to manifest international solidarity is not merely by sympathy, but by all-out efforts to support total banning of nuclear war.
Claudia was a great leader. Claudia was a great teacher. Claudia was extremely convincing. Claudia could have spoken to somebody who was probably diametrically opposed to her political points of view, but she got through. And Claudia is the person who introduced Carnival to this country.
I want to declare the 4th annual Caribbean Carnival, organized by the West Indian Gazette and Afro-Asian Caribbean News, officially open. Is there anything else I need to say except to welcome all of you, to wish you a very happy evening, and to say that I'll be seeing you again. Thank you very much.
Our most famous artist at the time was Edric Connor. We had Cy Grant. We had Bosco and Sheila Holders, who were dancers. And we just involved everybody. In fact, it wasn't we. In a way, it was Claudia who did that. It was her personality. What she was really doing was to weld popular culture and political demands. And she was a I nearly said master mistress at this. And that was a new phase in the politics of black people in the country.
Where are you going?
To enjoy myself. I'm not going to stand around and listen to your rubbish. You can get drunk and depressed on your own.
Happy Carnival.
Enjoying yourself, Ned?
steel bands. Beauty contest for colour girls. Pick your carnival queen. Dance all night, comrade, because tonight's the last night you'll ever experience. We don't want you to think, because thinking is painful. And our job is to wipe out the pain.
It's a gesture of peace, that's all.
Ahmed was right. We don't need gestures. We need action. Protection groups patrolling the streets so people can walk without the fear of walking into beatings. Lobbies, protest.
So what if we leave the pain behind for one night? It will still be there in the morning. We won't erase it, but we might begin to come to terms with it. It's been a tough year. We've all worked hard, organising, campaigning, attending meetings. We'll have our carnival because we deserve it.
Yes. Right.
Well, I hope you enjoy it.
Why this constant battle for control?
I'd better go after him. It's awful when he gets like this.
Dina, don't go.
I have to.
I need your support here tonight.
My husband needs me.
No wonder I was never married.
I'm not you.
And neither will you be, if you keep shuffling along after your husband as if you have no will of your own.
I'm not you. And neither do I want to be.
We political activists, if I may include myself in that, having been involved since I'm 20, which makes it 53 years of activity, we don't use the word sacrifice, actually, in our thinking. We're filled with both love and anger, love for all the good people and all the good things that people do, and a great anger at the injustices that people are subjected to. So this sort of is the fuel that keeps you going. And this is what inspired Claudia, and she in turn inspired others with her hatred of injustice and her love of people and humanity.
Without struggle, there is no progress. If, out of this struggle, history assesses that I and my co-defendants have made some small contribution, I shall consider my role small indeed.
If indeed I have a hero or heroine, it's got to be Claudia Jones. She's someone who has, well, there isn't very much of my life to shape, but as far as my life is, that she has helped me tremendously. And I saw someone who was completely selfless, who worked herself to death. Not many of us would have taken on the virtually thankless task that she took on, and to do it without complaining.
What we subsequently found out was that she died in her sleep on the wee hours, Christmas Eve. And I went up to her flat in Crouch End, and there were some people there who were very active members of the Maoist grouping, and were throwing their weight around that her body belonged to them. It was a very harrowing experience. They kept calling me, and on Friday night I learned that they had gone to get a judge to give an injunction against the burial. Well, that night I got a call and said that they had lost, that I could go ahead with the funeral.
If Manchanda hadn't taken out an injunction to prevent her being buried by certain parties, Claudia would probably be buried in some corner of, some cemetery, and probably virtually unknown.
It was a freezing cold day, and yet 400 people came. People from all the socialist embassies sent representation, ambassadors came. And it was a very moving thing, and it more or less gave her the dignified kind of send-off that she was entitled to have.
I think Claudia herself was the first one to admit that she was merely a part of the struggle, and she was a very powerful part in raising it to a higher level.